Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is a soccer episode. We have an NFL one coming out tonight with my good friend Andrew Schnicker, plus college basketball Need for Seeds on Wednesday. Always check out the pregame.com feed for college basketball stuff too as well. This is the Soccer Pod. We're going to go through the midweek European leagues, which we have the English Premier League, we have the Coppa Italia, and the DFB Pokal. I don't think there's enough in Copa del Rey for me to cover, but feel free to slide my DMs at the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, or on Twitter. And I would love to discuss them or see if there's something that we should look deeper into. I will be doing an ultimate best bet at the end of the show. So I'll make sure I cue that little slide up for myself so I know exactly who I'm picking. And then other than that, hopefully a big week. I am making some adjustments in my soccer betting. I'm going to be limiting my interest in bad teams on the road and trying to hope that they don't score and play good enough defense despite falling behind. I feel like that's been a weakness so far this season, and hopefully we can get some of that out because the brutal stoppage time under losses are killing me. But we're gonna go through the Premier League first because that's where the money is. So let's start right there. And we have a couple matches on Tuesday. We're recording this day of. I know it's a little bit later than normal, but fortunately, a lot of matches this weekend. I'm not caught up on all of them, and you can blame the Big 12 championship for some of that. So Tuesday, we have Wolves hosting Burnley. Currently, Wolves a half a goal favorite with all the juice over. There's 2.5, juiced all the way to under. I did watch both these matches. Wolves lost their goalkeeper after 20 minutes, but somehow didn't concede another goal the rest of the way. That's good tale or good sign for the future, but I'm not sure about Jose Sa's availability for this matchup. I thought the backup came in at Burnley, something like that. Whatever his name is, was fairly good. I mean, giving up no goals to Arsenal, coming in cold off the pine for 70 or so minutes is pretty nice. I don't know if that's something we can expect here, though. Burnley should have a lot less or a lot fewer chances than Arsenal would have created. It's possible that Arsenal were also up 2-0, so maybe that made it easier to not really have to push for as many goals. But when Wolves scored their only goal of the match, that was a big problem that then put Arsenal under a little bit of stress. With the current number, Wolves a half goal favorite, while the juice maybe that climbs to 3/4 of a goal. Burnley coming off a 5-0 victory over another newly promoted side, who they did, I think, win 5-2 against last season against Sheffield United in their en route to winning a pretty lopsided race to win the championship last season. Burnley hadn't won at home, I don't think, entering that matchup, have looked pretty poor through a lot of the season. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with them because I'm not sure I really want to back them as an underdog here on the road, which then brings into what I just said. Do I want to back bad teams that I think are going to lose or that I don't really trust as a road underdog to then play under 2.5 goals? It's very juiced at the moment. We might see this end up closing Wolves -3/4 and Burnley with a total, at 2 and maybe 2.25. Those are both numbers that, let's see where I made them just so I can, I guess, have some sort of point of reference. So I was expecting Burnley to be a slightly smaller underdog, maybe a little bit based off of the Jose Sa injury. And then I had this number at 2.25. So it is, I guess there is some value on under for me right now based on where I've made it. The questions are style of play. So Wolves, they're not as sit in defensively as Gary O'Neill teams had been, especially under Bournemouth last season. They give up a ton of penalties late in matches, which has been really brutal for my bottom line. I'm sure Gary O'Neill's gone nuts about it. Some of them have been deserved, some of them have not. Just unfortunately, in a game where there's so few goals, when you're giving away penalties and they're 0.88 xg on average, they score, maybe 0.77. I think it's 0.77 is what the German Bundesliga rates it. So every penalty is 3/4 of a goal, essentially. So it's hard to go under, especially under 2.25 or 2.5 when you're already giving away 3/4 of a goal. So we're going to hope that Wolves are able to avoid that sort of thing. Most of the time, I would say that the road teams are less likely to get penalties than home teams. I think that is one part of home field advantage that you see in this sport. But just trying to kind of, I guess, break down this match. How does Burnley score? Or how do Burnley score? They're going to be aggressive. They're going to play front footed. They're not as talented, certainly not in defense. They've got a really young goalkeeper who was third string at Manchester City and bought and then started after winning the Euro under 21s, I believe, for England. He's been okay, but certainly is not the finished product that I think he'll eventually be. The rest of the Burnley side, you could question their offense, and that's, I think, why they try to play as attacking as they do. It has not been a great start to the season for them. And they should be, but with that said, they should be very confident after a 5-0 victory. Finally, their first home win. It was against probably the worst team in the division, but I feel like with athletes, they're told throughout their entire lives that they're not good enough and they believe themselves. So when they finally get some 1 ounce of light at the end of that tunnel, I think Burnley will enter confident and probably will go for this matchup, which does make me think their defense will be more at risk. Wolves are not the most dynamic offense, but they do have goal scorers. We've seen Sarabia come off the bench with 2 goals in stoppage time, it seemed, or he started one of the 2 against Tottenham right before the international break. So I think I like Wolves here. It's hard to really want to back them as a favorite. I just don't think that Burnley are a side I want here. So I guess 2.5 will be my under in this. Underlean will be kind of where I'm thinking about going in this one. It's just awfully hard to make me feel good enough that this is where I want to be, just based on Burnley's kind of naivete and how they try to play matches. But 2.5 is a decent number. It's bigger than what I made it. The later match today is Luton Town hosting Arsenal. Currently Luton a 1 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice on Arsenal. So it's probably climbs to 2. BetOnline does offer some decent, I guess, other options for English Premier League matches rather than just the one line they put out there. If you're not a member yet, there's a promo code in the description, gets you 50% if you use GW50 when you sign up, first time depositors. I know it works I haven't heard if it works for a reload, so let me know about that one. And so I imagine this will close to totals 3 right now, a little bit juiced to under. That probably sits around about where it is. This is a classic case of, do you expect Luton Town to keep Arsenal out of their goal? Arsenal scored a ton of goals early in recent matches. They got 6 of them in total, I think, against Lens in the Champions League. But everything went wrong. I mean, saves were cleared off of Gabriel Jesus's thigh and went right into the goal. So those things are unlikely, though. Arsenal looked great to start against Wolves, then kind of either took the collective foot off the pedal, or maybe they were just extremely efficient for 110 minutes in the last 2 matches, and it was unlikely that would continue. Big question for me, there's an injury doubt for important center back Lockyer, I believe, for Luton Town. I want to say he left the match early and kind of things went sour after that. Luton are an under-only team for me. I'm not really interested in backing them, though they've been a little bit more competitive as a side lately. I think the only way I'd really want to go in this one is under 3. I think would be just as much of a bet on Luton Town's defense as it is against Arsenal's offense. Certainly, there's so much talent in that Arsenal front, in Arsenal entire team. They basically play a goalkeeper and 2 center backs, and then everyone else is an attacker, is what I feel like at this point. And Arsenal are going to be in a much better position to balance playing multiple matches in just a few days. Luton Town have only been playing 1 match a week. So there's going to be a big question about Lockyer, as I mentioned. I think is a Welsh international, but also, or Northern Ireland or something like that. But along those lines, I think it's Welsh, but along those lines, the big question is can Luton Town get ready for this one, be physically able in this matchup, because Arsenal are used to this and Luton Town are not. You'd say, well, yeah, they're probably going to be limited and they're going to defend the whole time and sit in a low block. And yes, that does help. But that is a really tiring type of setup when you have to chase the ball for 97 minutes or so with stoppage time. So I think there's a lot of questions. I do like getting the push on 3 if it lands there with a 3-0 Arsenal victory, for example, on the road. It's harder to score on the road, harder for Arsenal to, I think, demolish an opponent fighting against a home crowd, though really it just depends when that first goal goes in. So I'd say do not lose the 3 if you're going to play under here. But I'm going to be thinking about this, seeing what lineups look like, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Lockyer will be really important to be in that lineup. Next, we go to Wednesday match. We have Brighton hosting Brentford. Currently, Brighton a 0.5 goal favorite with more of the juice on Brentford on the road. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to under. As I remember to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Brighton have been playing these multiple match days. It's really damaged, I think, their form. They did go through in Europa League. So I guess it hasn't damaged them too much there. But I think in Premier League, you could see that they've had a little bit of a downgrade or a step down in performance. Brentford have been able to score goals a lot. It's hard to want to back unders with them. Looked like they were dead set to go under against Luton last weekend, but 4 second half goals changed that. I think Brentford, it's funny because they've really missed Ivan Toney, their striker. They've gotten a fair amount of chances, but I think the finishing is the problem. Brighton will be playing front-footed. De Zerbi is going to try to score the whole time. His best way to defend is by attacking. So I think you could see some goals in this matchup. The 3 is nice for the total, but I feel like with Brighton matches, I'm not really looking for unders with them anymore. I've kind of learned my lesson. I've paid my tithe to learn that they're just, even when it looks like they're going under, it's a very, very tough way to get across that finish line and end up catching that ticket. So I think it's a Brentford side bet here or nothing, but I'm a little worried about them trying to balance 2 matches in a week or even less than that in like 4 days, when Brighton have been doing it for a lot of the time, have a deeper squad, and should be more able to do it. Though I will say that only getting a half of a goal does make me think that the market likes Brentford a little bit here. I feel like it's a little too low for me at the moment. And I guess I can look and see what I made this one. And I expected Brentford to be a higher underdog. So what I've kind of learned is when I'm too high on underdogs, that means the market really likes someone. So I'll put Brentford on my list, but I'm not sure I'm going to do too much with that. Crystal Palace then hosts Bournemouth. Is a big wave of matches all starting at the same time on Wednesday afternoon here in the United States. Crystal Palace, a quarter goal favorite to Bournemouth, with a little bit more juice on the cherries. Bournemouth have been playing really well, though they did concede a late equalizer to kill the under, unfortunately, and also gave away from 3 points and fell to that draw late. Over under is 2.5, juiced all the way to under. Palace, I've not seen a lot from their offense. Getting Michael Olise has been huge, but I think they still miss Eze. I don't think he's back for this matchup. Big questions about how Crystal Palace are going to score. Their defense has been making some big mistakes lately. I would expect those to be ironed out because they, to me, are a defensive side, especially under Roy Hodgson. Bournemouth, they had a really slow start to the season, finally got a home win, got really fortunate facing Newcastle at home, and they were completely devoid of important players, playing players out of position, striker, all that sort of stuff. But I kind of like who they are because I really like their manager. Andoni Iraola was so good at Rayo Vallecano, and he's working his way into playing this type of game. They still have big set piece defensive problems, as we saw Aston Villa take advantage of that, and it was a huge problem from last season. Change manager, seems like that problem is still around, so it might be the players, it might not be the coach, unfortunately. But a quarter goal underdog on the road at Crystal Palace is very respectful for Bournemouth at this point. Palace have been so good at home over the years, but I'm not sure we've seen that so far this season. I do like the under 2.5 as well, because I don't think there are a lot of goals that will be scored. Certainly question the Bournemouth defense on set pieces and just defense in general, but they do sit back and try to counterattack you. And I think they're going to give Crystal Palace a lot of the ball. I'm not sure that Palace really want much of it. They'll probably see this as a match that Crystal Palace are supposed to win, but there's a lot of respect here for Bournemouth. Neither have been playing 2 match days a week, so this is going to be a test for legs. I do think that impacts defense a lot, but it also does impact finishing. And 2 tired teams potentially going at it, not really used to playing as much in this former fashion, this frequently could certainly lead to a pretty much dead, maybe goalless matchup. Moving next to Fulham hosting Nottingham Forest. Currently Fulham a half a goal favorite at home with all the juice of Nottingham Forest on the road. Over unders 2.25, juice all the way to over. Fulham with one of the wilder match days or matches of anyone last match day, with a 4-3 loss, despite, I think, taking 2, maybe even 3 leads. I think 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, and ended up losing the match. Brutal, but that's probably the max output for Fulham goal scoring this season, and might have scored for the rest of December what they scored in that first match day. So I'm looking to be against Fulham as a favorite. Nottingham Forest, a disappointing loss to Everton at home this weekend. We're in certainly good places to potentially win, but I feel like ultimately Everton, I think, had more chances on the road. Nottingham Forest, certainly a much better home team, so it's alarming that they lost Everton there. Thankfully, they moved outside of the pick'em range that I was looking for, getting odds on Saturday. So luckily, I think I was able to avoid that one. But I am tempted by Nottingham Forest here just because I want to be against Fulham. I'm not a believer in their offense whatsoever, which also makes me interested in that under 2.25, which I think will be 2.5 before this kicks off. At least the juice is pointing that way, where you get very good odds. Plus 107 right now is what BetOnline's dealing on under 2.25. So yes, you only win half your bet if it lands 2, but certainly that better odds is great and does add up over the long term of the season. And I'm trying to do my best to get as much plus odds. If it's not protecting me, saving me, like if I'm going under 2.75 or under 2.5, I like under 2.75 because you do get some safety on it if it lands 3 to return half your stake. But for the other bets that I'm winning, like a quarter plus 1/4 or 2.25 versus 2.5, I'd rather take the plus odds. And if anyone disagrees with that, please let me know. And if you got some math or even just want to give me some qualitative rather than quantitative ideas for that, I am all ears trying to figure out the best way to maintain and balance juice is, I think, one of the biggest parts of sports betting in general. Regardless, I like Nottingham Forest. I like under because it's really me playing against Fulham. Nottingham Forest offense with Chris Wood, striker, is not the same as what I don't know why they won't play Awoniyi as much as maybe it's a health thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing a change there in the lineup. And I don't really know. I trust Steve Cooper. He's been great there for a while and has deserved his contract extensions, but they need to show something. And I don't believe Fulham will continue to score goals at this rate. Sheffield United then host Liverpool, which should be a dramatic difference in talent on the pitch. Liverpool used to playing 2 match days a week. Sheffield United haven't done it all this season. Currently, Sheffield, a two goal underdog at home. All the juice on Liverpool on the road. Over unders 3.5, juice all the way to over. I don't really know what number it would take for me to get involved here with Sheffield United. Their home crowd has been great. It should be a big performance from them. I might have even had this number. I didn't make it all the way to 2, so maybe not. And I had 3.25. So I guess there's some value based on the line and probably overreaction to how bad everything went last weekend. I do like getting 2 goals of insurance. I doubt this will make it to my card, but I'll put +2 and 3.5 because both are getting odds, and I think they're above what I made it. If I was a strictly value variance player, I think I would be backing Sheffield United and under. I'm going to do my very best not to get a bad team like that on my card, though. If there's ever a time for a bounce back performance, here we got to talk myself into this. It would be on Wednesday. Got a couple of more matches Wednesday, and then some more on Thursday. So got a bunch more. Manchester United currently a pick'em to Chelsea right now. All the juice on Chelsea on the road. Interestingly enough, over under is 2.75, juice all the way to over. So this is a huge statement on how poor Manchester United have been this season. I don't know necessarily what to say about that, as I think Chelsea are a team I want to bet against as much as I can. So when you have 2 teams facing each other that you want to bet against, it does make it really hard to pick a side. But ultimately, Manchester United getting odds at home is of interest to me. I can't imagine that I made this price. I'm just giving you all my dirty laundry here. Yeah, I expect Manchester United to be a really slight favorite. So that is of value to me. Betting the Red Devils at Old Trafford with a pick'em being with a draw being a push for you, and if they win, getting odds is crazy based on how bad Chelsea have been for so long. I think I'm also interested in an under 2.75. I'd love to see it hit 3. I don't know if we'll get there just because there's been so few attacking returns or even attempts for Manchester United. We've seen the Champions League debacle and how they're pretty much on the outside looking in. Chelsea aren't playing that many matches, so this is a little bit of an adjustment for them. Manchester United, though, have been, losing so many players to injury, and that's what happens when you have really bad recruiting. And I wonder if that's because no one wants to play for Erik ten Hag. It's starting to feel that way, but we'll see. So lean to Manchester United at home as a pick'em underdog, and also lean to under 3 if it gets there. Waiting for that. Last but not least, Aston Villa hosts Manchester City on Wednesday, last match of the day. Aston Villa currently a 3/4 goal underdog at home to City. Over under is 3, just all the way to over. So Aston Villa has been a great home team. They've not been as strong away. They have a huge test of that year with Manchester City coming in, though Man City have not been the bulletproof side that I think a lot of people have treated the number one team in the world to be. So I'm interested here. I'm wondering if I can get a +1 on Villa. That's very interesting to me. Don't know if that'll happen. Juice suggests it might head that way, but certainly not a guarantee. I was expecting to get more from Aston Villa. So market seems to like Villa a little bit. They've been playing 2 match days a week, and they have been doing it on less rest, playing in the Europa Conference League, I think. City have been playing Champions League, which is the best way if you're going to play 2 matches per week, because it gives you the most rest time and is a big, I think, advantage. But they don't have that here. They've kind of been all over the place. That had no business winning the Red Bull Leipzig match at home, but refs certainly were on their side that day. And I think they won't be there for them this time. Aston Villa at home should have a huge crowd impact that will sway the refs a little bit. I do like under 3, though I think it gets higher than that, and I have no interest in jumping in there right yet. Getting odds is nice, but I think you'd want to see if this hits 3.25. But I like Villa as well at home. And moving to Thursday, last 2 matches before we move to the Coppa Italia, which we do have a match today starting somewhat soon, so I'll get moving. Everton hosts Newcastle. Currently, Everton a quarter goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.5 and is juiced slightly to under. Newcastle not looking healthy whatsoever. It looks like Nick Pope might be hurt and potentially missing some time as well. I think Dubravka's still there, and that's a decent backup goalkeeper, but one that's been out of form, or at least not been playing a lot. Everton with a big win on the road. They're going to have a huge crowd behind them. Newcastle have shown huge vulnerabilities away from home. It's what happens when you leave a fortress and enter someone else's fortress, it seems. I think Everton is a perfect example of that. So I really like that quarter of a goal. And I like under 2.5. I feel like Everton have been playing better defense lately. They still miss a lot of chances. But I think there's a lot of motivation, especially against the corrupt Premier League, that this is going to be a big performance from them. So I like that quarter of a goal and under 2.5. And last but not least, Tottenham hosts West Ham in a London derby-ish. Tottenham, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice on West Ham on the road. Over under is 3.25 and is juiced all the way to under. Tottenham, it's hard to back unders with them because they're going to play forward with no matter what team they have out there. It doesn't even matter if their scrubs from the past are still around. West Ham have been scoring a lot of goals, but do we trust them to continue that? I don't. They had big physical match with Crystal Palace this weekend, another London-ish derby for them, though I think that one's a lot more important than Tottenham because they see themselves more as rivals, I think, than a North London club and an East London club. But from where I'm looking at this one, I think West Ham are my biggest interest. I don't really think that I have much that I want to do with the total. And let's see, it's actually the spread's a lot bigger than I expected. So it's almost double what I made it. So that's nice. Total's high too. So I guess I like that as well. But it's going to be just really hard for me to want to get involved with any Tottenham unders because they don't want to play low scoring matches. And so that makes it pretty hard to want to have anything to do with that. So for my best bet for the English Premier League, then we move to the cups competitions that are coming up. I'm going to go with Everton getting that quarter of a goal at home against Newcastle. I think there's a lot to be concerned about from a Newcastle perspective. And I think betting against their road performances is a good idea. Moving to the Coppa Italia now, we have just 2 matches because I think these are split off and there are more matches coming up. It's really jagged schedules and it's hard for me to explain it, but why do it? Because that's an Italian choice. Lazio hosts Genoa, 2 Serie A squads, both I think performing differently. Lazio nowhere near expectations, Genoa way above, though Genoa have not been as great lately and should have won this weekend, but ended up conceding a late equalizer to Empoli. And then unfortunately, I think they're struggling a little bit. They've had some injuries. I still wonder where Albert Gudmundsson will be, if he's going to be back for this matchup. I doubt it since he wasn't in the squad this weekend. But currently Lazio, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 2.25, juiced very heavily to under. This is at the Stadio Olimpico in Roma. Though Lazio crowds haven't been showing up really midweek, certainly weren't there for much in the Champions League when they really needed to win against Celtic, though they ended up getting it with some late goals. They had a player sent off from their opponent Cagliari this weekend and only scored once, despite having, I think, 70 or so minutes. I pretty much chalked my under as dead at that point, but maybe credit the Cagliari defense, or maybe we just question the Lazio offense, as I pretty much have all season. I see no reason to get away from that. I really like Genoa getting a 3/4 of a goal. I'd love for it to be a full one. The juice is suggesting it might head there, but there could be some big rotation here. I'm not sure what to expect from lineups. So we'll be waiting to see that in about an hour, or actually less than an hour, probably as soon as you hear this podcast, unless you're watching live, which I appreciate. If you're on Twitter, please hit subscribe or follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and leave a 5-star review on Instagram. And wow, I'm screwing everything up. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That'd be great. But subscribe on Instagram. And if you're watching on Twitter, these are live. So feel free to interact. I don't know if I could see anything because I'm looking at a million other windows, but I appreciate all the support. The other matchup in Coppa Italia is Fiorentina hosting Parma, who Parma are in Serie B. Historic club, but have not been in the big time for a little while now, despite having American owners, as I think we're going down. Fiorentina, a 1.25 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice on Parma, actually all of it. Over-unders 2.75, just a little bit to over. I don't believe in the Fiorentina offense whatsoever. I thought were fortunate to score as much as they did this weekend. Got a penalty, which of course will always help, that 0.77 xG. I think this is a situation though. Fiorentina are used to playing multiple match days within a week. And so they should be in pretty good shape, I think, health-wise, because fatigue-wise, they usually rotate a lot anyway. My guess is Fiorentina are going to play this. It's going to be a tighter matchup than you'd expect, because the Serie B team, they usually come in with a lot more motivated. The problem is I just don't know how to rate Parma's talent versus Fiorentina. And sometimes Fiorentina are favored like this at home to Serie A clubs. So hard for me to want to get involved with Fiorentina, betting against them, even though I'm not really a believer in their offense, I must admit. So for my best bet for Coppa Italia, I'm going to go with that Genoa under 2.25. I think that's probably the best spot to invest. So I do like the side there as well, though I'll be waiting to see if we get a +1. And last but not least, I'll move to the German DFB Pokal, their cup competition, and then come up with ultimate best bet and get this blasted out there so everyone can get on this as soon as possible. Homburg hosts St. Pauli. St. Pauli is I think pretty good in the second division, have their sights set on getting back to the Bundesliga with an automatic promotion. St. Pauli, a 1.5 goal favorite with all the juice on the road at Homburg. Over under is 3.25. This is not Hamburger SV. They'll come up later. Not sure who Homburg is, but total is 3.25. And there's not much I can add on this one. Borussia Mönchengladbach then hosts Wolfsburg. And this is a rematch from a few weeks ago, which was dominated by I think it was a Friday night match where Wolfsburg went on the road to Gladbach and lost, I want to say 4-0. That didn't go great. So for the spread here, we have Gladbach a 0.5 goal favorite. All the juice on Wolfsburg on the road over is 3, juice all the way to over. And I'm interested in Wolfsburg and under, though their road woes continue this weekend with a loss to Bochum, and weren't even able to keep it under, which is very disappointing for yours truly. It really hasn't been good. They're going to a house of horrors for them where they got blasted last time they were there. I would expect Wolfsburg are probably going to be very focused on the early portion of this match, try to stay in this game. I think that will probably quiet their offense and probably limit their attack a little bit. So that does make me have some interest in Wolfsburg as a side, and also because it's bigger than I made it. I don't think these teams, I think Wolfsburg are a better team on a neutral, but it hasn't been happening. Gladbach have had a fair amount of decent performances, took a 2-0 lead at Borussia Dortmund before ultimately losing 3-2, and then had a win this weekend against Heidenheim, though I felt that they were pretty much dominated across the scoreboard. Got a penalty there, though, and that was a big deal. I think for the total, it's hard to back unders here because Gladbach's defense is questionable. Wolfsburg have made some big mistakes, which I think has been a big reason why they've been struggling so much this season. Might be a little bit of a hot seat for Nico Kovac, their manager at this point. There are a lot of things going wrong directions. I think under 3, my biggest interest in that one. Our Tuesday match is the only one that I think I could probably stomach backing. Moving to Wednesday, we have Bayer Leverkusen hosting Paderborn. Leverkusen used to playing multiple matches, but had a big one with Dortmund this weekend, did rest quite a bit, but did ultimately travel to Norway and brought the whole team from what I remember. So we'll see about legs in this one. Paderborn went into Freiburg They're a Zweite Liga or second Bundesliga team who were controlling a Freiburg side that are playing in Europa League and advance to the next level of competition. You could argue they caught them at a flat spot or something they looked past, but the DFB Pokal is important. We'll see if Paderborn, what they can do here, but they're taking on the best team in the Bundesliga at this point so far this season. So I don't think I want to have anything to do with under 3.5 there, which is juiced all the way to over, or in that plus 2.5 on Paderborn as a side. Moving next to Saarbrücken hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently Saarbrücken a 1-goal underdog at home. Juice is split and over under is 3 with also split juice. I'm still not necessarily as much of a believer in the Eintracht Frankfurt offense. I think that will probably lead to more of an interest for me in under 3. Do I know if I feel good enough about playing a lower league? They're at least, they're not in the Bundesliga, so it's at least just twice the league aside. And Eintracht Frankfurt have tons of talent, have been playing in Europe, and should be able to handle this pretty well. But I don't see a lot of goals. I think cup matches play very tight, especially away from home. I think Eintracht Frankfurt are in some danger to lose here. So I like under 3 because I don't think Saarbrücken are winning a shootout. Next, we'll go to Stuttgart hosting Borussia Dortmund. Big matchup, which just happened a few weeks ago. Stuttgart winning in what seemed like a pretty controlled fashion. Stuttgart a quarter goal favorite at home. Split juice over unders 3.25. Juice a little bit to under. I don't know if that I want to back Dortmund here, though they've been certainly good in this cup competition for years now, including winning it a couple seasons ago. They also have had, I think, a better defense this year than anyone would have expected, though the offense has been quieter. At this point, though, Stuttgart are really hard to be against. And only getting a quarter that says these two teams are equal and a neutral. I'm not really even sure I believe that. I think maybe at a neutral they're even, but I almost want to give a little bit more home field advantage to Stuttgart because they've been playing so well there. I think under 3.25 is my biggest interest there. I think it could potentially have some fireworks based on the two offenses, but Dortmund's is not that strong, and I think they're going to be more focused on trying to stop Serhou Guirassy and also Denis Undav, who's been great filling in for him. Feels like those two strikers are two of the scarier players that are out there in all of European football at this point. And last but not least, we have Hertha Berlin hosting Hamburg. This is a battle of two teams trying to get promoted back to the Bundesliga. It's been taking a long time for Hamburg. They keep finishing in third and losing in the relegation or the playoff to get into the Bundesliga, the Oberhausen. Hertha currently a pick'em right now, a little bit more juice. They knocked off Mainz, a Bundesliga side, in their last round, and honestly got the Mainz coach to resign afterwards. So they've already gotten some success there. Over unders 3.25, just a little bit to over. I haven't been following this Zweite Liga, so I can't really say how I feel with these two teams' defense. I might do a little bit of research looking into this because I think this is pretty much at pick'em. It's I think 2-1, either 2-1 goals could go either way, and that still goes under. So unless we got a huge shootout here, which I think the cup match will be very, very conservative, a lot of these teams trying to stay in it. Certainly could see some caution thrown to the wind at the end if you're trailing, but the longer it takes to score some goals. So I think I'm interested in Hamburg. I'll put HSV under 3.25 as my lean for this one, as I don't know that I really want too much to do with a total there. So for my best bet, I'm going to go with that Borussia Dortmund under 3.25. I think that is going to be, it's two potentially good offenses playing against each other. And fighting for a berth in the next round of the DFB Pokal. But at the same time, I feel like scoring goals is going to be tough. Weather's been really difficult in Germany as well, very cold. I don't know if that necessarily reduces the flight of the ball or makes it harder to score. But I think it's going to make it every tackle will be felt more, especially on a quicker turnaround, and there should be an advantage there for Stuttgart or for Dortmund visiting Stuttgart. Stuttgart has the home crowd, but they have been playing 2 matches in a week. This will be, I think, a really big test for them, which I also think that kind of points to under as well. So thank you for tuning in. As always, the support. Stay tuned for NFL. The ultimate best bet is about to come, but I gotta give you some plugs for NFL podcast tonight with Andrew Schnicker. Tomorrow, Need for Seeds with Big East Ben. And then, of course, stay tuned for Premier League and everything coming back this weekend. Plus, pregame stuff coming out with AJ Hoffman, college basketball editions. They'll be out Thursday night into Friday, and then Sunday night into Monday as well. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/thereal_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything, and even get a buzz if you turn notifications on when I lock plays in. Make sure you get the best number. It's the most important thing out there. Speaking of best number, you've got to have as many sports books as you can, so get in there. There are promo codes. One I already mentioned for Bet Online, who I quote all the lines from on this podcast network, but also check out SportsBetting.ag. There's a link in there. You can get double your money, and that's about the best you can get anywhere out there. Just took advantage of it this week myself, so throw that promo code in there, but make sure you follow my link to get there so that we both get credit for it, and they give you that 100%. So it's now time for the ultimate best bets. Let's get into it. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and on Twitter. And this is the ultimate best bet for European soccer leagues. I guess I'm recording this December 5th. So from the English Premier League, I like Everton getting a quarter of a goal. In Coppa Italia, I like Genoa under 2.25. And the DFB Pokal, I like Borussia Dortmund under 3.25 goals. Really tempted to go with all of these. Make sure if you're not following me already on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, go hit that follow button. It's really appreciated, and get all my picks as soon as they come out. But for my best bet on this episode, I'm going to go with Everton under, or getting to a quarter of a goal at home. I do like the under there as well. A little secret there, but Everton at home have been really angry at English Premier League referees, organization, administration, everything. Crowd will be up for it. Newcastle have really struggled on the road entirely this season. They really miss their home crowd everywhere they travel, and their goalkeeper's banged up. So I like Everton getting a quarter of a goal on the road. I think at home, I think they win this match. Newcastle lose it on the road. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in on this weekday. Anyone that's been there live, I really appreciate you. And then stay tuned for some other podcasts coming this week. And other than that, I guess good luck to everyone, and let's win some money.